Back in the day, moms didn't have Google. So you know what they relied on? Their motherly intuition. I believe this is our biggest superpower as a woman. If you feel like you've lost your motherly intuition and you want to regain the ability to trust your instincts, what you were designed to do, then you are in the right place. Welcome to the Slowish Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis. I'm a mama to 2 little girls and a parenting coach. I help moms who are burned out, tired, and stressed feel happy and confident so they can enjoy a little more ease in their daily life. If you want to unlearn parenting and awaken your innate design, then you're in the right place. Alrighty, let's get into today's episode. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I am talking about this gut instinct, motherly intuition that I believe past generations knew and trusted so much more than we do. And this is just coming from my own personal battle with intuition. And for me, this has come up mostly around health-related things. As many of you know, both my girls were NICU babies, and my second has a rare heart defect. And so this really caused me to not trust myself. I battled with believing that everybody else must know better. I must have missed the motherly intuition thing as much as I would have liked that and I would have enjoyed to trust in myself. Everybody else must know better. You know, there's science now and there's all of this, but I believe that we are getting so far away from what we were intended, what I believe we were designed to do. And like I said, this was just from my own story. And so if this is you, if you're listening to this, I want you to know that there is hope. I want you to know that there is the ability to change and to become the mother who trusts her intuition. And it doesn't have to be just around health things. There are many moms who struggle with decision fatigue. That's one thing, Should I send my kid to this school or that school? Should I co-sleep? Should I, all the things that we think everybody else knows best for. And yeah, I really think that the past generations did this much better, because it's funny when I was asking, my mom, I'm like, so what did you do? When our poop looked weird? She's like, well, I'd just give it a few days. And if it didn't get better, I'd call the doctor. Oh, yeah. So you didn't Google it. I mean, she didn't have a computer, so she couldn't Google it. Or she'd call my grandmother. And so it's like, that was how things were intended to be. They were intended to be that we trusted ourselves until we needed to outsource. And it was funny because I was listening to, oh gosh, I cannot think of her name. I've mentioned her before, but I think the last time I forgot her name too. I think it's something with the Zimmermans. She's a Mennonite, or what is an ex-Mennonite, I should say. But she was talking about sickness and how they really learn to trust themselves, and they only get care when they really need it. And I think about how often we are running to these experts and thinking and believing that they know best and they have all the answers. And when they don't, we're like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with them? We get mad at them. We think we made a wrong decision for trusting them. And it's, for me, it was putting the blame on someone else so I didn't have to carry that burden. I didn't have to carry the burden of what if I mistrusted my intuition and something happened? Instead, I could blame somebody else. And that was not serving me. That was not helping me to be the mom my girls needed me to be. And it was funny because at my last pediatrician appointment, I do both my girls together because their birthdays are literally a month apart, just 2 years apart. And the doctor was like, you are definitely a cardiac mom. You are something special because you don't worry about anything. And the funny thing is prior to a year and a half ago, I was the most anxious, worried, stressed out about every little thing mom. And I mean, truly, I do believe that having a baby with a rare heart defect does change things. You look at things a lot differently. You know a lot more about how things run and work. But that's also kind of been the key in my story, is learning how to trust in myself and to anchor in myself. And I want you to know, and I'll share this in a little bit, I'm not saying don't call your doctor or don't call a friend. Like, that's actually what I'm encouraging you to do. What I'm discouraging you from is Google and Instagram and influencers and all of that. My channel here, and I always feel weird saying that because I'm like, well, I am a creator, don't listen to me. No, but I feel like my scope is more encouraging you to step into your innate design, to step into who you were created to be for this for this child. You have a role. You were selected, handpicked for this child. You were clearly believed to know what you were going to be able to do. You were going to know how to handle all the things that are coming. And if you don't, you are going to find the resources to know how to do that. It was interesting because I was reading in the book Hunt, Gather, Parent, and she was talking about how parents back in the day, new parents, they had the guidance of typically, the mom would have the mother, and then you'd have the aunts and the cousins and the sisters who have all mothered before coming in and showing this mother how to mother. And when we come into motherhood, we're just kind of thrown to the wolves and say, good luck. And all, by the way, here are 9 experts that know better than your mother and your grandmother ever did. So make sure you listen to them, because they're going to tell you how to put that baby to sleep, and science knows best, And I don't want to discourage, obviously I believe in medicine, and I believe in, I do believe in science, and I believe in all of that. But I also believe that we've become so out of touch with ourselves, with our guts, with the gift that we have as a mother to just know, please tell me that you've had this experience before where you just know, you just know. And I can tell you, with my second daughter, after she was born, I was something was not right, and I knew it. I could sense it and I could feel it. I couldn't let anybody hold her. I couldn't put her down. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I just figured it was hormones, and it was my first baby that I was going to bring home. I didn't get to bring my first baby home from the NICU right away. So I just thought it was emotionally a lot because of that. No, my body just knew. She was not right, And so if I had trusted that, we would have gone to the hospital immediately. But, I trusted the expert, my midwife, and she said, no, everything's fine. She's fine. Take her home. She'll be fine. She'll pinken up. It'll all be good. And it didn't, it didn't. And so it's I need to trust those urges, those deep urges. And the more attuned and in tune you become with your body, which is going to be the first thing that I want to share about coming back to your motherly intuition, is trusting that. We have to trust our own bodies. We have to feel safe within our own body. And we can't do that if we don't know ourselves, and that takes time. That takes time, and also an opening up of ourselves. For the longest time, I was so afraid of my thoughts. I was so afraid of what could I think, or, what if my mind drags me over here? And because I had such anxiety for so long, and when I would get quiet with myself, I was afraid of all these thoughts and all these words that could potentially come into my mind. But what I started to learn is those things were telling me something about myself, and not necessarily that the thought was true, but more that I was caught up. I was anxious. I was worried. And there is a reason why I am that way. There is a pattern, a generational pattern that is that way. And so if I could have just used that as my yellow flag to say, hey, alert, alert here, look inside yourself. Why don't you just sit with yourself, just be with yourself, anchor in yourself? And that's really what somatics did. I've mentioned her here before, but I love the Workout Witch. I started doing her stuff about a year ago, and I found myself really being able to step back into my body and feel comfortable in my body, trusting in my body. And so that was a really cool, huge moment. And then just recently, I started doing bowspring. And this is like unraveling me in ways that I never expected. But it's beautiful and it's exciting because I'm getting to know myself more. And I believe that this is the first step in trusting that motherly intuition. And I think the difference between our ancestors, those who've come before us, and how they were able to trust their intuition is it was survival. They didn't have a choice. They had to. Like my mom was like, we didn't just run to the doctor every time you had a fever. Like, we didn't need to. Like, it wasn't, we intuitively knew that was not a sign of something's wrong. It just was a sign that you were fighting something. And so I think it's really important that we see that we actually do need this for survival. It's actually useful. It's actually needed. It's important. So yeah, I think that is a really cool part of the past generations that we've kind of lost in this most recent generation with Google and all the accessibility to information, which leads you astray. Let me tell you, it definitely leads you down roads that you do not need to go down. And something that I learned from the Village podcast that I can't unhear it, and I love it. What we read, if we type in, does my baby have X? Whatever we read for the symptoms to be, we've now downloaded that into our body, and we are going to look for those symptoms and at times even manifest those symptoms. So just don't do it. Just don't do it. And that is actually going to bring me to my next thing, which is like, don't run to Google. Google is not your friend. You could download, I actually like DuckDuckGo. I use that primarily when I'm searching because it's not biased. It's not run by like the algorithm like Google is. And so it's not going to bring up things typically that are uber scary. And a lot of times I'll add words like holistic or natural or something like that. I try to do things that are very, as I call them, innocent. But my favorite thing to do is to find a really good Facebook group that will help, that other moms can help you to navigate symptoms before jumping into, my kid has this rare thing. I'm talking from the person whose child does have a rare thing, but just don't go there because the chances of that happening, literally, my cardiologist is like, the chances of you having her with this condition is 0.5%. So, I mean, really, I hit the jackpot, didn't I? Hit it perfectly. But yeah, going on a Facebook group, I absolutely love Corey Malloy's Freely Rooted group. She teaches pro-metabolic eating and healing, and it's completely transformed my life. But that is a great resource, super holistic and natural, and you can take what you want and leave what you want. Another great one I like the Crunchy Mom groups. A lot of times they won't actually add you if you... Oh, I don't want to get banned here on YouTube. If you don't do certain things, we'll just put it that way, they won't allow you in. So you kind of have to, I guess, be more on the crunchy side. But there are some that are just like holistic and they have a more holistic approach. And I tend to go for those because I find that there are alternative ways to do things. And it's a lot more like how our parents did things. It's a lot more that way. But obviously there is a time and a place for medicine, and that is what it's for, and it's beautiful. Let it be. And if you're really anxious about something medically, that is what your patient portal is for. That is your best friend. When my daughter was first going through everything, I use that thing like on a weekly basis, oh, this came up. Oh, don't worry about that. Oh, yeah, that's something I'd keep an eye on. Oh, nope, don't think, like it was so helpful to get answers soon and quickly. So call your friend, call your mom, call your grandma if your grandma's, available. Call your doctor if you need to call and get, if you're really concerned. I love this piece of advice that I had gotten with Josie. I don't remember how far along into her diagnosis, but they're like, if you feel so concerned that you need to call the doctor, that is how you know that it's something to be concerned about. But if you just feel like, oh, I don't know, could it be something? Is it not something? I don't know. It's probably not anything. So I've kind of gone off that rule of thumb, and it hasn't led me astray yet. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's just been part of my journey and helping me to trust myself. Has been really helpful. So the last thing is what you don't feel confident in, where you find yourself questioning and feeling like you can't trust yourself. Do your research. When I was looking into where are we going to have my daughter's surgery, it's an extensive surgery, 14 hours plus, something like that. And there's only a few doctors in the world that do it. And so which doctor do I want to choose? And I actually watched all of these doctors, so they had YouTube videos, perform the surgeries because I wanted to see these doctors in action, what it would look like. And let me tell you, it released a lot of fear. I listened to these doctors do talks. They were just like, they were actually way over my head talks. They were like things about this, about her heart that like I had like, some of it I had like no idea what he was saying. But listening to his tones and how he was talking really gave me confidence. And so I think like when it comes to sicknesses and things like that, look up holistic remedies, look up natural remedies, have resources that you feel comfortable with that you can go to when you're unsure of things. A resource I absolutely love is Dr. Green Mom. If you struggle with like anxiety over sickness and that kind of stuff, her resource is amazing. I won't go too much into detail just because I don't know how YouTube friendly that is, but her stuff is really awesome and it's not biased, which is so hard to find today. And, I think in today's social media world, we can do a lot of our research on YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And I think that those are great ways to lead us into doing our own research, but let's not let somebody else do the research that we need to do. Let us do our own research and discover what could potentially be best for our child and then use trial and error to see how that goes. For instance, when my kids have stuffy noses, they both have two very different approaches. I'm going to, approach one like this and one like that. And it's because I know my kids. It's because I know how they work and what works best for them and what they need and all of the things. So it is some trial and error, but let that be. Let that be what you do to discover what your children are needing. And I promise you that with time and with practice, the more you do it on little things, like maybe it's like, oh, my child has a bug bite and I heard that you could put honey on it. I'm going to just try it. I'm going to put a little honey on it and see how it goes. And maybe that's like one little thing and acknowledge it afterwards. Be like, yes, like I trusted my intuition and it went great. Or if you're energetically feeling something within your body, like we should not go to the park today. Trust that. Just trust it and just say, oh, nope, I'm not going to go because I don't know why. I just trust it. And know that like that feeling inside of you is there for a reason. It's protecting you. It's keeping you safe. And we as women have that ability. We have that emotional ability, especially if we're really in tune with our body, to know when those gut feelings are coming up. So get in touch with it, believe it, trust it, really get to know yourself. And I think that that's probably the biggest piece here. I think that, like I mentioned, earlier, I think that our ancestors, they knew themselves because they had to be in tune with themselves to make decisions. They had to. They didn't have a choice. It was survival. It was how they were going to keep their children alive. So yeah, let's trust ourselves, and let's also do the research to help us navigate decisions that we have to come, because we do have that ability now. Imagine if 100 years ago, or even if we don't say 100 years ago, let's just go back to our parents' generation. Let's say that our child has a fever and it's 103 and we're not sure what to do. We know 104 is something that we probably should call the doctor about, but we know 103 is still kind of high, so we're unsure. It's like if we start feeling in our gut like, oh, I'm seeing my daughter and she's starting to look a little lethargic. She's really looking not good. My gut is telling me that I need to do something, but I don't know what to do. This is where that research comes in. Okay, let me go to my resources. Let me go to Dr. Green Mom. Let me type in fever. Let me see what her protocol is. Let me see here what feels right to me, what feels like something that, could work, or let me read her advice and see what I'm feeling when I'm reading that, and then acting on that in a way that gives us confidence, right? And then once the event is over, we can always go back and evaluate and say, yeah, good job. I trusted my intuition. She needed to go to the hospital because she was acting lethargic, and she needed that. She really did. Or maybe we go and they're like, oh, she's totally fine. Here's Tylenol. And now you've learned, okay, those symptoms, yeah, I need to back off a little bit, So yeah, I think, obviously this episode has been, talking a lot about, health and sickness, just because that's the realm that I find that I struggle the most with. But if we go to even as simple as something as like homeschooling, I say simple, it's a big deal. I know for myself, walking through this, navigating this was really difficult right at the beginning. And even now it's something that I'm really thinking about as we potentially could be moving to a different state and deciding, okay, what are the homeschool laws there? And what does that look like? Is it smart? Am I going to want to homeschool for a while? Is my daughter going to want to homeschool for a while? What does that look like? Is this what's best for her? And going through all these what ifs. And it's like, what does my gut say right now? And I think that as moms, we tend to live like in the future because we want to protect. We want to plan, right? And that's natural instinct to protect. But I think we need to step back and we need to just live in the now. And if it is something like homeschooling, it's like for the next year, I know that I'm going to be homeschooling because one, she's 4 and she can't go into kindergarten, but she's doing kindergarten material. Secondly, is that I know for the next year she's still going to be homeschooled. Things are going really well, whatever. Let's reevaluate next school year. We'll see where things are at. And it takes the weight off of having to have all the plans and do all the things and know all the things right now. And it's not putting it off. It's more just like giving yourself structure around the future. Because if we are just constantly living in like, oh, what am I going to do when they're a teenager? You don't know what life's going to be like then. You can't trust your intuition that far off. I feel like intuition is a very in the moment thing, and we kind of just have to notice it, listen to it, and go with it. So anyway, that is going to wrap up this episode. I hope that it encouraged you. I hope that it gave you some thoughts and ways that you can move forward to trust your intuition more, and to really step into that innate role of motherhood, which I believe we all still have in us. We just need to reawaken it. We need to unlearn all these societal norms of today and really step into the body and the soul, which I just think is so needed today. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, would you please give it a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.